course, probably the most important black woman leader in American history is none other than Harriet Tubman herself, who was responsible for implementing an underground railroad that took dozens, if not more, maybe even hundreds of people to safety, slaves that were brave enough to try and break the bonds of their servitude and escape up to freer places. Rita Daniels, who lives down south, wrote a book called Harriet Tubman, Military Scout and Tenacious Visionary. She's a dear friend of our own Wayne Winston's, who serves on her board. She's been on our show before. Today's a really big day, Rita Daniels. Rita Daniels is one of the only living family members of Harriet Tubman, being her great-great or great-grandniece. Rita, welcome back to the show. Hello.
Well, thank you for having me back. And let me just give this disclosure. This book could not have been even completed without my co-writer, Jean Marie Wiesen. She was very instrumental in making sure that we got this to fruition. It was a lot of work going back and forth and everything, but we finally got it published, and we're doing pretty well right now. So it is Harriet Tubman, Military Scout and Tenacious Visionary. Please make sure that you go out and get that book, because it's a lot of information in there.
Oh, yes, and I do want to give a shout-out to Jean Marie Wiesen, because she's also a resident of Weston, I believe, right? Of Weston, Connecticut. So shout-out local author here, right?
Yes, she is, and a lot of that work, because I am in Georgia and she's in Connecticut, we did a lot of that online, just talking on the phone and Zooming and whatever we could possibly do to make sure that we got this to fruition. So, yes, kudos out to Jean.
Well, let me ask you something, Rita. As you were doing the research yourself with Jean, what were you surprised to find out about Harriet Tubman's life that even you didn't know? What were some of the surprises you found out?
Well, there's quite a few things in that book that I was not aware of, and that is all of the people that helped her toward her freedom. And I was like, whoa, I never even heard that name. So at this particular point in time, I can only say that, like Patty Cannon, I didn't know anything about her. She was the person that was trying to reincorporate slaves back into slavery when they were already free.
Really?
I thought once they were free indeed, but they weren't.
Wow. How could you be reincorporated back into being a slave? That's insane. What does that mean? I don't understand that.
Well, back in the day, I guess it was a possibility, and to a lot of us, we were astonished as well. But that was her job. That was what she was doing, to make sure that slaves stayed a slave.
Was she down south?
You mean Patty Cannon?
Yeah.
I believe she was in Maryland.
In Maryland. Interesting. Wow. Right on that Mason-Dixon line. Holy cow. Okay. Wow. Look at that. And Harriet Tubman herself, how old was she when she passed away, Harriet Tubman?
She was 92.
She lived well past the end of the Civil War. She lived to see the Jim Crow laws be reinstituted after Reconstruction. Do you know if she left any writings or thoughts about the legacy of civil rights down south after the war?
Well, one of the things that Harriet Tubman did not have the privilege of was to learn how to read and write. Anything that she left behind were just sayings that she would say that were written. One of the things that she did talk about was with a person that helped her write a book so she could raise money for for her home. So that was something that, yes, there was another book that helped her raise funding, and one of the things that the book was able to do was to help her raise money for the Harriet Tubman home.
Which is in New York, right? New York State.
The Harriet Tubman home is Auburn, New York, where I was born and raised. Mm-hmm. And we celebrated going to the Harriet Tubman home on several occasions, of course.
Wow. So she wasn't able to read and write, even to the end. What year did she die?
That was 1913.
Yes, 1913, March 10th, 1913. That was the year we got the income tax amendment. That was a notable year.
What was that?
That's the year we got the
income
tax amendment. Yes, that's the year that we officially got the income tax amendment, 1913. That's how I remember it. But so she lived to see a lot of the sad things that were still a legacy of slavery become part of a black person's life, particularly down south. Do you know if she spoke about that? Do you know if she was sad about that or not, or didn't think about it much?
Well,
you know?
She certainly was. She was heartbroken because she understood what it was. And as a matter of fact, why we celebrate Juneteenth now is because one of the things she knew was that Abraham Lincoln was able to emancipate or put out that new, what do you call it?
It's proclamation.
Right. So people were able to emancipate themselves and so forth. But the reason why it's a federal holiday in the United States is because it's celebrated annually on this day, the 19th, and it commemorates the ending of slavery in the United States.
Yeah.
Now, it's called Juneteenth, but they had, because it was the 19th in the month of June, that's how that name came about. And it was by Major General Gordon Granger, who ordered the final enforcement of the emancipation. However, enslaved African Americans throughout the Confederacy saw that the war was an opportunity to emancipate themselves. Harriet Tubman, on that same time, and other members of the 54th Regiment, is what she was a part of, spent their time at the fort and were integral to shaping the Union policy on the ground. So the enslaved, and many of them, whose names, of course, were left out of the historical records, which is what we were told, were no less, Harriet Tubman's name was even removed. And that's what they're doing even now. They're trying to remove her name from certain things. And, sometimes they had to put some of them back.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. Her legacy is honored through a naming of schools, ships, tugboat. It was supposed to be on the future $20 bill, although it didn't happen. But
Well, that's because our current president did not want her on there. And they said there was some kind of issue with the ink and all that kind of stuff. But we already can see through that. It is what it is.
You know that, speaking of that, the NAACP announced this week that they are not going to invite Donald Trump for the first time in their 116-year history. They're not inviting Donald Trump to their annual convention. Are you a member of the NAACP, Rita?
I was a lifetime member years ago, back during the time when I was married. I don't know if that got revoked. I don't know. He has passed away, so it was his membership, and the wives were added on. So I don't know. I haven't checked.
But do you have an opinion about that? Do you think what do you think about that?
I think there is an issue that he has with blacks, period. From the standpoint of, if you look at his cabinet, it doesn't look like our nation. And there's a lot of, he's removing DEI, he's removing a lot of that. But you have to remember, DEI was not really just for us, for people that had black skin, for women. It was for LGBT, handicapped, disabled. DEI really never helped us anyway, because the minute we walk in, they're going to see the color of our skin. They can decide whether they want to hire us or not. So we didn't count on that. That's one of the things we learned a long time ago.
We're chatting with Rita Daniels, who is the great Grand-niece of Harriet Tubman and the president and founder of the Harriet Tubman Learning Center based in Powder Springs, Georgia. If Harriet Tubman were to come back right now in 2025, what do you think she would be most pleased about, and what do you think she'd be most displeased about, Rita?
First of all, starting with the displeased would be saying that what's really changed, especially right now with what's going on within things being removed, from the standpoint, her name being removed from the boat, and John Lewis's name being changed. These are things that they have earned their spots. They have earned their recognition for what they have done. And then there's someone who wants to remove it. And I think that's just totally unfair and wrong. However, I know Harriet Tubman's name was put back in where they were trying to remove it. DEI did not help her at all.
Do you think she'd be pleased? I mean, Barack Obama was in Hartford, Connecticut just the other night. Do you think she would be pleased about, generally speaking, the triumphs, the contributions, the achievements of Black America today?
Well, certainly she would be, but there's always still something that's holding us back.